Hello again. Welcome to week 2 of the Writing with Power workshop series. I'm Michelle Graham and I'm excited to be back with you again. First of all, I had a chance to review your outlines and I was absolutely delighted with what I saw. You have a lot of great variety on there. Some of you are writing executive summaries, some of you are going to be doing blog posts, status updates, project proposals, so there's a wonderful variety of different types of reports that you're putting together. So I'm really excited to get us started in this process. Second question I wanted to answer for you is, yes, I am right here in Kabul, Afghanistan. In fact, I'm about 100 meters away from your office. Unfortunately, I can't be at your office in person because my working hours are the same as your working hours, but one of these days I hope to be able to visit you in person. And a third question, if you have any questions at all, I believe that your HR department is putting together a sheet where you can ask questions on there, and then they'll compile those questions and send them to me. So you can always reach me by email as well. But yeah, let's get started on our week 2 task. First, before we get started with the week 2 task, I wanted to revisit some of the expectations of the Writing with Power workshop series. So what I have here with me, this is something that you should have received last week. It's called Welcome to Writing with Power, and it provides an overview of the different weekly assignments, as well as some tips and some do's and don'ts. So let's go through that together. So if you go ahead and get out your sheet that says Welcome to Writing with Power on top, and let's go through these. So first of all, every Saturday after the team meeting, you'll be shown a video like this one, where I will explain what task you're going to be doing for that workshop. And that video will last about maybe 10-15 minutes. After the video is completed, you have 45 minutes of working time that you'll be with your proctor, that I encourage you to finish as much as you can on your worksheet packet, because then that information from the video will be fresh in your head and you can get as much work done as possible. If you don't finish with the worksheet packet at the end of that 45 minutes, you have 3 more days to finish it on your own time. So the video will be shown on Saturday. That's where you'll have the workshop time with your proctor for about 45 minutes. After that, you will have until Wednesday to turn those papers back into HR before you leave the office on Wednesday. And I really need to get those in by the close of business on Wednesday, because then that gives me enough time to mark your papers, give you some great feedback, and have those returned back for you for your next workshop on Saturday. But the most important thing is to get your stuff done now, today, this Saturday. After you watch the video, try to get as much done as you can, and then you can go back and look at your work again with fresh eyes. So turn to the next page of the Writing with Power welcome sheet, and I have some do's and don'ts listed there. So first of all, the biggest do is trust yourself. All of you working for Promote Women in Government right now, you have had years of English language instruction. You've been able to communicate in the language with your colleagues and with outside offices, and you've been to school. You know this stuff. So I say trust yourself. Trust the vocabulary words that you use on a regular basis, and trust the language that you use. So with that being said, I do not want you to use Google Translate. Try not to use your smartphone to look up words and to come up with different grammar, because then I think your thoughts will get lost in the process. Oftentimes I find with my Afghan students, they'll type something into Google Translate in Dari or Pashto, and then the English translation that comes back, it's not good grammar, it's inaccurate, and it may use vocabulary words that even my grandmother didn't use, 100 years ago. So I want to make sure that your language and your vocabulary is being used, so trust yourself. If you do need to look up a word, if you don't know the spelling of it, you should have some paper dictionaries available to you. Otherwise, you can use your smartphone to look up a word if you already know that word, and you just have a question about how it is being spelled. The next thing is to be patient with yourself. Don't rush this process. Writing takes time, and it takes a lot of making mistakes and revising. So I recommend that you don't use a pen. Please use a pencil, because then you'll have a chance to erase your work, reorganize your words, and be able to revise your writing as you go along. One of the questions that your HR department told me was you were wondering if you could type out your homework. For right now, I want you to actually write, just like you did many, many years ago, probably when you were a child. And the reason why is because there's a connection between your brain and what you're writing on your paper that will help you with that creative process as you're starting to write. So right now, for week 1, week 2, week 3 assignments, those will all be on worksheets written in with your pencil. On week 4, when you're putting together your final report, that you will be able to do on your computers using Microsoft Word. And then you'll have the benefit of being able to use the spell check function as well as some of the grammar check functions too. So right now, I'm going to have you write your assignments, but your final report you will get to type out on your computer. Number 3 of the do's is give yourself a break. So today, this Saturday, you're going to be working for the 45 minutes after the video is shown. But then after that, take a break, put that paper aside, sleep overnight, and then the next day, come back to it. And then you'll be looking at it with what we call fresh eyes, meaning that you won't be tired, your brain won't be tired, you won't be reading the same thing over and over in your head, and you'll have a new way of looking at what you've written, and sometimes you'll be able to see things a bit more clearly. Okay, going back to the do's, number 4, ask others to view your work and be supportive of one another. So that's the great thing about all of you taking this workshop together, is during the 45 minutes that you have after watching the video, I encourage you to work mostly independently. This is where you really want to be focused on your own thoughts and putting your ideas down on paper. After you take a break and after you've had a chance to revise your work, then you may ask your colleagues to take a look at it to get some fresh thoughts and ideas from them. Make sure that if you or your colleagues are looking at each other's work, be supportive of each other. Don't be too critical. Give constructive feedback. If there are some glaring areas that you think that they need to address, certainly give them that feedback, but always end on a positive note. Really give them encouraging words so that they feel good about the writing that they've done. So those are the do's. Let's go to a couple of the don'ts. First of all, don't copy. And this is something, unfortunately, that I see with many of my English language learners, because they aren't feeling confident about their own language skills or their grammar and their vocabulary. So they're very tempted to go onto the internet and copy sentences and text that they find on the internet, or they might be tempted to copy the work of other people. Don't copy. Number 1, you have to trust yourself. I want to know what your words are. When I'm looking over these worksheet packets, I want to really feel what you are trying to express through your writing in your own words. And I can't do that if you copy the text. Also, the word that we use when you copy information from some other source, it's called plagiarism, and it's actually a very serious offense. You can have students that might get expelled from university, or even employees that get fired from the job because they have plagiarized. So we definitely want to make sure that none of you fall victim to plagiarism. And then the last don't is don't negatively judge your writing skills against the writing skills of your colleagues who are taking the workshop with you. It is a delight to review all of your outlines. I had a chance to see them. They all look wonderful. And all of you are at different skill levels. So be kind to yourself. Don't feel like someone is better than you, or maybe that you're better than somebody else. Make sure that you look at your work for what it is. And our goal in this workshop series is to see you improve, to see you recognize where your starting point was, and to see where you have grown from that. And we don't want to have to compare it to anybody else. This is all about you and your process for improving. So that's the do's and don'ts for the program and an overview. I hope that's clear. If you do have any questions, please don't hesitate to ask HR, and you can always email me as well. So now that we got the overview for the program done, let's talk a little bit about what you'll be doing this week for your week 2 task. And this is the big thing. This is where we're actually going to write your very first rough draft. And the length of this rough draft is going to be a bigger paragraph. We're going to start off with a bigger paragraph, and then if we want to make it bigger or make it a longer piece of writing as we go on, we can do that through the revision stage. But right now, today, we are going to have you write a paragraph. Now, any essay that you write, any kind of report that you write, has 3 basic elements. The first part is your introduction. And in your introduction, there are a couple pieces there. The first thing is you want to grab the attention of your reader. And this is what we commonly call in writing as the hook. This is usually a piece of information that is so interesting that your reader wants to read more about what's in your report. So first, I'll show you how to do your hook in your introduction. And then also part of your introduction will be your main topic, the thesis statement of your report. And this will be the main idea that everything else in your report will support. So that's your introduction, that's the first one. The second part of your paper will be the body. And in the body is where we have the supporting sentences that go back and support that main idea. So these will be things like examples, details, explanations, background, history, anything that goes back to support that main idea. That's your body. Those are your supporting sentences in the body. That's the middle part. The last part is the conclusion. And in the conclusion, you will simply summarize what you've already talked about in the body of your report, and then you will conclude it by restating your main topic and also giving an idea to the reader of what your current status is in whatever project you are working on. And that's it. So are you ready to get started? Here is your week 2 worksheet packet. The task is writing your first rough draft. So if you don't have your worksheet packets in front of you right now, you can pause the video, give yourself a minute or 2 to get all your papers in front of you, and then you can restart the video. Okay, is everybody ready? Great, let's get started. So just like last week, make sure you put your full name on the top. If you have a nickname, just write that name afterwards in quotes. And then the first step. So not only should you have this week 2 worksheet packet in front of you, but you should also have your week 1 worksheet packet in front of you. So again, if you need to pause the video and get that in front of you, take the time to pause it now and make sure that you have your week 1 worksheet packet in front of you, and that's the one that I have given you the feedback on. So you should have my writing and feedback on your outline and your mind map from the week 1 packet. Does everyone have that? Great. Okay, so step 1, you're going to be looking at your week 1 worksheet packet. And let's take a look here. Okay, so the 3 questions that you'll be able to answer from looking at your week 1 worksheet packet is, again, number 1, what kind of document do you need to write? And so here you'll put the type of document, whether it's a blog post, project status update, project proposal, executive summary, whatever it is, you need to write that there. Next, be thinking about who exactly will be reading your document. Will it be your colleagues? Will it be the donor? Will it be the general public? Will it be a government agency? Who's going to be reading it? And then lastly, what is specifically the name of the project that you're writing about? And then what is the target or the goal for the successful completion of that project? So write those 3 things down. You should get that information directly from your week 1 worksheet packet. Once you have that finished, let's move on to step 2. And remember, this is where you had your mind map and your outline. And those are some pictures of what those look like. This is where you'll look at the feedback that I gave you on your mind map and your outline. Take a look at it and make sure you understand what I've written on there as suggestions or different praise I've given you for good clarity that you've have. And then I want you to think about, when you're looking at your outline, everything on there should go in the exact order that you want it to appear in your report. This is going to make it really easy for you, because when you write your rough draft, you just go step by step by step by step, point A, point B, point C, point D, and then your report is written. So make sure right now, take a look at each of these supporting details and put them in the exact order that you want them to appear in your rough draft. Let's go ahead and look at the sample outline that I put together for XYZ organization. This is the one that we did together last week, where I had written out an outline for a youth employment program. So here at the title, I have the Youth Employment Success Program, and the type of report that it is an executive summary. The main topic is where you state your goal. So for this program, it was the target of 500 youth employment placements. And then A, B, C, and D are our details. So with mine, it was the internship program, the job readiness training, the business development, and the job placement and retention. And then finally, on the Roman numeral 2 down here, you'll repeat your main topic. So this is where you'll state again your target. This program is 500 job placements. You want to give a current summary of where you are right now with your project. And so if we're imagining that this report is being written in the 9th month of a 1-year project, and the current placements are 481. So we are telling the reader that currently we have 481 placements that is working toward the ultimate goal of our target of 500 job placements. So that gives you an example of what your outline should look like. Once you've arranged the points in your outline in the order that you want to write about, here is where we are going to talk about how to put together your rough draft. And just like I stated in our introduction to this video, there are 3 main parts to any essay that you're going to write. And the first thing is, at the beginning, you will be introducing your main topic. And in this particular type of writing, when you're doing a report for a nonprofit agency, you'll want to give the name of the project and the target goal. The next part of your report will be the body. And here is where each supporting detail that you have in your outline, these will be used to construct supporting sentences. And they'll just go simply in the order that you have them in your outline: A, B, C, and D. Finally, the last part of your paper is going to be the conclusion. This is how you end on a note where you are going to repeat the main topic. You'll summarize the information and let them know what your current status is with the project. So how do we do that? Well, let's go through. I'm going to give you some examples. In the next steps, we're going to go step by step on how to write your introduction, the body, and the conclusion. So in this step, we're going through how to write a good introduction. And I think you might remember me talking about a hook. So a hook is so interesting in an introduction sentence that it makes your reader want to read more. It grabs their attention. So in here, I want you to be thinking about what is something, an interesting fact about your project or the work that your organization does that will make your reader say, wow, I want to learn more. So here's where I want you to ask yourself some more in-depth questions about the work that you're doing, because then this will get your creativity in your brain flowing. So the first question I want you to ask yourself: why is your work so valuable? How critical is the problem that you're trying to solve? Now, for example, with a USAID project, like a promote women in government, you're talking about why it's so important to have women in leadership roles. So it's important. Why is it important? What's the status now? Are there very few women in government? And what are the consequences of that? So think about the problem, that how it exists now, and how important it is that your organization is working to solve it. Number two, what is a statistic about the work that you're doing that would shock the general public, something that they would find very surprising? And so this can be either a somewhat negative statistic, or it could be a positive statistic. So say, for example, you wanted to have a statistic about how few women are in government right now. So it might be the ratio of men to women in leadership roles, and that might be your shocking fact. Or on the flip side, you might want to make it more positive by saying 10 years ago in Afghanistan, what a small percentage of women were in leadership roles, and because of the work that your organization and others like it are doing, here is the percentage of growth in each passing year between now and maybe 2008. So that you might want to do a statistic about the work you're doing that will show how the impact of what the work is that you're doing. And then lastly, number three, this is your vision. If the work you're doing right now is successful, what would an ideal future look like? So let's say, at the end of your project, you achieve your goal of having X number of women in leadership roles, in different government agencies, and then 10 years from now, because of all of these women representing in these leadership roles, how different would that make this country? How different would that make our communities that we're living in? So really think about things about your organization that make your work so valuable, and what would interest the reader. All right, so then if we're going back to the outline that I put together as a sample for XYZ organization, I wrote a hook here. Here's my surprising statistic. Between 2000 and 2011, employment rates in the US fell to 24% for teens aged 16 to 19, the lowest employment rate in the country in more than 60 years. That's my wow statement. This means that unemployment hasn't been this high, or rather employment hasn't been this low for teens since the Great Depression. That's a pretty serious statistic that is going to make people pay attention. After I have my hook, the next thing I want to do in the next sentence is state my main topic. And this you already have in your outline, so you don't have to come up with something creative. You just state it. You state your organization, the name of the program, what the goal is, and what the deadline for the project is. So here's how I wrote that. That is my main topic, and everything I write in my report after that is going to go back and support that main topic sentence. So those are some examples there. The next thing that we do in our report is we work on the body. And in the body, we're going to write supporting sentences that are simply the details that you already put in your outline under A, B, C, and D. So these are word for word the things that you put for the supporting details. Now you're just going to expand those ideas into full sentences. So if you look at the outline for XY organization on the previous page, take a look at supporting detail A. And here's where I've written 2 sentences that state all the information that I put in detail A on my outline. The young adults served by YES are first connected to internship opportunities with participating businesses throughout the local region. And thus far, 1,100 youth have been placed in internships in a variety of career fields. For example, one 21-year-old intern has been working in an IT support role in which she received 2 weeks of on-the-job training and is now assisting the company's website customers. There's a couple things I want you to note in these 2 sentences. First of all, notice how I shortened the word, the program name, Youth Employment Success, to YES. Now, the reason I can do that, the reason I can use this acronym is because in the previous sentences, I already stated the full name of it. This is really important. And one of the things, even when I was reading through materials for your organization as well as several others, sometimes organizations, they get too used to saying acronyms. You know, instead of saying Promote Women in Government, you say WIG. And that's fine when you're talking with each other and you know what each other's talking about. But when you have somebody else reading your document who maybe doesn't know what all these letters and acronyms mean, you have to make sure that you spell out the complete name of the program or the initiative first, and then put in parentheses behind it the acronym. After that in your paper, you can use that acronym. So here, there's another example of that here. So a 21-year-old intern has been working in an IT, and notice I spelled out information technology support role, so that anybody reading this, they know that when I'm referring to IT, this is what I'm referring to. Later on, if I use that acronym of IT, they'll already know because I spelled it out in this sentence. The final part of your report is writing the conclusion. And this is where you will summarize your report and you'll repeat that main topic. So in this report, the repeat of your main topic is the goal, the target goal, and you're going to summarize where you are right now in your progress towards reaching that goal. So here's what our conclusion sentence looks like. In conclusion, the XYZ organization's YES program has made it possible for young adults to launch their careers and build up the region's emerging workforce by placing 481 youth in permanent job placement by September 2018, 96% of the 500 target. So we've included all of our elements we needed in there. We summarized that what we're doing, we're launching their careers and building up the workforce. We are saying where they are, what's our current status. We have 481 youth in the permanent job placements as of the current date, well, the current date that this was written at. And then we show what the percentage is toward the ultimate goal by the program's end. So that's it, that's it. That's how we write our report. So let's put together all of those sentences into our paragraph where we have an introduction, a body, and a conclusion. Now, I won't read this all out loud to you. I just want to point out a couple of things. We have our introduction here, which includes our hook and our main topic sentence. Then each of these sentences afterwards are one or two sentences based on the A, B, C, and D of the supporting details in your outline. And then at the end, we have our conclusion sentence right there. I want to point out something in the very beginning of this report, going back to what I told you all about plagiarism. So there will be times when there is information that you get from somebody else's research or somebody else's documentation that you want to include in your report. The one thing you have to make sure you do is you cite your source. So for example, this statement here about the employment rates in the US, the percentage of 24% or, can't talk, 24% of was the employment rate for teens aged 16 to 19, and that it was the lowest employment rate in the country in more than 60 years. This isn't information that I just made up myself. This is information that I got from a legitimate source. So what I've done here is I've noted that as this little raised one to have my site sourced, and then you'll notice at the bottom of the page I've made a footnote. So here is the author, the date that it was written, the name of the article, and the website that it was retrieved from on the specific date. This is a formatting of bibliography that you can get online. It's called the APA format, and you can simply go online and say APA cite sources, and it will show you how to cite your sources accurately. So you can, if you need to copy some kind of information, a statistic or another piece of information, you can do it just as long as you cite your source on where you retrieve that information from. So okay, so now you guys have an example of how to write a rough draft. Now it's your turn. So get out your pencils, get out the last couple pages of your worksheet packet. You'll have a lot of lines on there that you can write. You can make mistakes, you can erase stuff, there's plenty of room, and if necessary, you can always staple extra pages to your worksheet packet. That's fine by me. So let's recap the steps that you're going to take as you write your rough draft. Number 1, look at your outline and make sure that all the key points are in the order that you want them to appear in your report. Number 2, write your title on the first line, including the name of your project and the type of report that you're writing. Number 3, write an attention-grabbing hook introduction sentence. Number 4, write a topic sentence which includes the name of your project and your target. Number 5, write 2 sentences for each of the supporting details in your outline, supporting detail A, B, C, and D. And then finally, number 6, write a conclusion sentence which repeats the main topic, which is your target, summarizes the content of your paragraph, and then provides an update on where you are currently in the status of your project on that specific date. So here are the lines on your next few pages where you can write to your heart's content. And like I said, you're going to make mistakes. This is all part of the writing process, so make sure you're using pencils that you can erase with. Okay, so once you've finished, what you'll do next is do as much work as you can today. Do as much work today during the workshop time that you have with your proctor. When that time is up, take your worksheet packets with you, give your eyes a break, give your brain a break, and then at a later time in the evening or maybe the next day, get your worksheet packet back out again, and you can do some additional writing. Just make sure that you have this packet completed no later than the close of business on Wednesday, February 6th. And what you'll do is you will staple the 2 packets together. So I want you to staple your week 1 packet and then the week 2 packet, staple both of them together and turn those physical copies into HR by the close of business on Wednesday.